The rival parties are back to work on the year 2015 budget after an opposition party boycott, but there's no telling how long they'll be able to work together. The first defamation trial over a Japanese journalist's claims about President Park Geun-hye has opened in Seoul. And North Korea has unveiled the official title of leader Kim Jonguns' younger sister. She's now the deputy director of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea.
Hello and welcome to News Today on KBS World. It's Friday, November 28th. I'm Luke Claring. Rival parties resumed deliberation on the year 2015 budget, normalizing operations for the Special Committee on Budget and Accounts. The opposition had boycotted the proceedings over a partisan dispute on free child care service.
The ruling Saenuri Party on Thursday opened a subpanel meeting of the National Assembly's Special Committee on Budget and Accounts after the opposition boycotted all parliamentary proceedings the previous day. The ruling party lashed out against the opposition boycott.
밥을 굶겨야 된다고 생각합니다. 맨날 이렇게 하면 기다려주고.
The chief of the budget committee, Saenuri Party Representative Moon-pyo, adjourned the session, urging to wait further for both sides to come together to discuss next year's budget. The budget committee meeting resumed after 3 hours, at which point members of the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy, or NPAD, belatedly joined. The budget committee finally convened. The NPAD said they decided to return to parliament because they can't let the ruling party alone craft next year's budget. It said it will work to cut out bad budgets. Earlier, the rival camp's deputy floor leaders had negotiated for 2 hours and agreed to operate a number of parliament standing committees. But they failed to reach common ground on the amount of government support for free child care services for children between ages 3 and 5, an issue that brought about the parliamentary deadlock. But another dispute led to the failure of convening the Parliament Committee on Security and Public Administration, which the two sides agreed to open. This came after the ruling party denied the opposition claim that they agreed to incorporate a provincial tax item into the proposed hike in tobacco costs. It remains to be seen whether ruling and opposition leaders can seek a breakthrough to fully normalize parliament schedules through either official or behind closed doors.
The first defamation trial over the claims about President Park Geun-hye in a newspaper column by the former Seoul bureau chief of the Japanese daily Sankei Shimbun has opened. The plaintiff denied all the allegations.
Tatsuya Kato, the former chief of Sankei Shimbun's Seoul bureau, looks grim as he heads to court. Kato was referred to court last month on the charge of defamation against President Park Geun-hye. In the first trial, the prosecutors accused Kato of writing groundless rumors about the president's whereabouts during the Seoul ferry sinking in his online column in August. The prosecutors say that Kato tried to criticize the president by using only unconfirmed sources, such as stock companies' journals. To prove that the column included false information, the prosecutors summoned as witnesses the president's former secretary, Chung Yun-hye, who is also mentioned in the column, and a fortune teller who met with Chung on the day of the ferry sinking. Kato's attorney says he questions whether reporting about the personal life of the president, who is still single, constitutes defamation, and that the column in question was written for public purposes.
피고인의 거짓의 사실을 드러내지 않았다. 그리고 그 사실이 거짓의 사실인지 인식하지 못하였다. 그리고 비방의 목적이 없었다.
Kato claimed he wrote the column only for the purpose of informing Japanese readers about how the Korean public views the way President Park Geun-hye handled the ferry accident. Some 50 Japanese journalists gathered in front of the court building 2 hours before the trial. The next trial is slated for December 15th.
North Korea has unveiled the official title of leader Kim Jonguns' younger sister. She's the deputy director of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea, which is equivalent to South Korea's vice minister rank. And at just 27 years old, Kim Yo-jong is on track to outpace the rise to power of Kim Jong-un's aunt, Kim Kyung-hee.
North Korean leader Kim Jonguns and his aides visit an animation studio. And among the group is his younger sister, Kim Yo-jung. Wearing a field jacket and a bright smile, Kim's sister looks cheerful and comfortable in her place. She even takes out a notebook and jots down notes. North Korean media have called her a deputy director of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea, equivalent to the vice minister rank in South Korea.
조선노동당 중앙위원회 부부장들인 김여정 동지, 김오이순 동지가 동행했습니다.
Considering that the other accompanying officials all belong to the party's propaganda department, including Party Secretary Kim Gi-nam, South Korea believes Kim Yo-jung also likely belongs to this unit. She's expected to be one of Kim Jong-un's closest aides and lead efforts to unite the regime and bolster the personality cult which idolizes the supreme leader.
김정은 제1위원장의 개인 숭배, 체제 선전의 일선에서 모든 것들을 총괄하는 그런 차원의 역할을 할 가능성이 높다고 봅니다.
Kim has entered the inner circle of power at the tender age of 27. Observers believe she'll surpass her once powerful aunt, Kim Kyung-hee, who stood closely by her brother and the late leader, Kim Jong-il, since becoming a ruling party department director at 29 years old. A growing force in North Korea's ruling family lineage, Kim Yo-jung's rise to power is expected to accelerate the solidification of Kim Jong-un's power base in his third year in office.
Samsung Group's decision to sell 4 of its subsidiaries to the Hanwha Group has caused jitters among Samsung employees whose fate has yet to be decided. The employees have released a statement in protest of the move.
Unexpected news broke out on the sale of Samsung Thales, a defense technology development company. The company's employees find it difficult to focus on their work as their future is now in limbo.
내부 분위기가 어떤지 좀 여쭤보려고요.
저희 표정 보면 그 정도까지 나왔습니다.
Employees at Samsung TechWin, another Samsung subsidiary to be sold to Hanwha, have also announced statements and set up emergency committees to protest the sell-off. Employees are accusing Samsung's owning family of selling their precious workplaces in order to facilitate the inheritance of management rights. The Hanwha Group has promised to maintain the subsidiary's workforce and employee compensation at their current level, but that wasn't enough to quell their anxiety.
처음에 약속은 하지만 기업의 상황에 따라서 말을 힘이 번복할 수가 있는 상황이기 때문에
Some 7,700 employees are to be transferred from Samsung to Hanwha under the two conglomerates' big deal. Samsung says it has yet to decide whether to transfer the employees, including newly hired ones, to other subsidiaries or to pay them compensations.
An unmanned mini-tram on magnetic rail has debuted in Korea for the first time. Korea is stepping up research and development of these mini-trams, perhaps representing the future of transportation, with the goal to commercialize by 2016.
This is Masdar City in the United Arab Emirates. In this city, being built in the middle of a desert as a futuristic carbon-neutral metropolis, the mini-tram is the staple transport vehicle.
A driverless electric car. It's all a bit James Bond.
A lone tram can carry as many as 6 people. They are being called the future of public transit as they can travel freely outdoors and indoors at a speed of 50 kilometers per hour on their designated tracks. Korea has also developed its first prototype after 2 years of research. At a customer's call, an unmanned tram arrives along a track under which magnets are installed. The tram then moves to the appointed destination without any stops. They can also move vertically up and down like an elevator, which is very useful in places like a shopping mall, airport, and industrial complex.
공항, 인천공항 같은 데에 터미널에서 주차장이나 연결이나 이런 거 그런데 충분히 적용이 가능하리라 그렇게 보고 있습니다.
The remaining task before the trams can be commercialized is thoroughly verifying their control functions, such as making lane changes, cut-ins, and adjusting the space between other cars. Some $10 million have been invested in the tram project to date. The Transport Ministry says the mini-trams will be ready for commercial use by 2016.
Local governments are often criticized for unnecessarily replacing pavement blocks in order to spend any extra budget before the new year begins. One public company recently came under fire for spending $1.5 million on replacing the marble floor of Gimpo Airport Station, even though it was still in good condition.
The aisle connecting Gimpo Airport Station to the domestic flight section has been transformed into a construction site. Workers sprinkle adhesives on the floor, which seems to be in good condition, and cover it with fancy tiles. The domestic marble originally used to finish the floor is now being covered with Italian tiles. Passers-by say they don't understand why the floor is being renovated.
자주 이렇게 왔다 갔다 하는데 이거 멀쩡한 거 왜 이렇게 뜯어가지고 다시 하고 그 위에다 덧붙이는지 그런 거를 잘 이해를 못 하겠어요.
The cost for renovating this 250-meter section of the floor is approximately $1.5 million. The cost of the tiles alone reaches roughly $200,000, each tile costing around $30. The Korea Airports Corporation, which placed the order for the renovation, says the construction is part of remodeling efforts for Gimpo Airport as a whole.
1996년에 설치되어 자동 보도 및 소화 설비 등이 노후화되어 있습니다. 또 마감 재료가 주변 환경에 비해 굉장히 낙후되어 있어 이를 해소하고자
It will cost approximately $3.6 million to renovate 3 sections of Gimpo Airport's corridors in all.
The beginning of winter is merely 3 days away, but strangely, spring flowers are blooming all over the country, and a kind of frog that should be in hibernation has been spotted up and about. The unseasonably balmy weather is confusing the biorhythms of animals and plants.
December is only 3 days away, but these yellow forsythia blossoms have bloomed among the bare branches. The spring flowers started blossoming a week ago, and now the trees are covered in yellow blossoms. Forsythia trees have also flowered along the walking trail at the Korea National Arboretum in Pocheon. Even in the middle of Seoul, royal azaleas have bloomed, catching the attention of passers-by.
지나가다가 이게 뭐지 하고 봤는데 분홍색 꽃이 있어서 너무 신기해서 쳐다보고 있었어요.
Animals should have gone into hibernation a month ago, but there was a frog that just couldn't go into its winter slumber.
팔짝팔짝 뛰더라고요. 뭐지 하고는 봤더니 개분인 거예요.
According to nature's biological clock, spring flowers blossom only after certain numbers of cold and warm days have passed, and frogs go into hibernation when the temperature falls below 4 degrees Celsius. But this year, there was only one cold spell, which was followed by a 10-day span of balmy weather where temperatures rose up to 10 degrees higher than previous years, causing animals to mistake the season for spring. An increasing number of animals and plants are starting their spring biological activities earlier in the season. It was found that spring flowers now start blooming 8 days earlier than in the 1960s, and frogs spawn 22 days earlier than 4 years ago.
기후변화로 이런 현상이 지속적으로 발생한다는 것은 동물들도 원래 생체 리듬을 잃고 새로운 환경에 적응하려고 노력한다는 의미라고 볼 수가 있겠습니다.
If animals and plants can't adapt to the changing environment, their numbers will decline, leading to disruptions in the ecosystem.
People generally avoid films based on actual events or awkward truths because those movies make them feel uncomfortable. Why don't people like such films, and why do some directors keep making them?
This documentary film has reenacted a military regime's civilian massacre. It is filled with distressing scenes and dialogue. An instigator of the mass execution even appears in the film.
영화를 보면서 이게 실화가 아니었으면 좋겠다고 생각을 한 적은 처음인 것 같습니다.
눈이 초롱초롱하네.
A grandmother's mistake leaves a baby dead and the family broken apart. Unbearable guilt gives rise to fear and silence. A cast member identified so much with the character as to suffer depression.
적나라하게 보여줘야겠다는 생각이 있었어요. 이거를 괜히 감추고 더 여기서 포장하고 이럴 필요가 전혀 없잖아요.
여기 애들은 심심하면 막 이상한 소리를 지르고.
These so-called uncomfortable movies shed light on incidents with extensive social implications or injustices happening all around us. Just showing the events and people as they are can drive the films to extremes.
삶에 이런 부분도 있구나, 사회에 이런 부분도 있구나라는 것을 느끼게 만든다라는 측면에서 영화가 해야 될 일이 아닌가.
Uncomfortable movies are difficult to watch, but they act to show some of the awful truth hidden away in real life.
It's oyster season in Korea. Here are some of the best ways to enjoy this tasty seafood.
With the cold winter approaching, oysters are in season. Nicknamed in Korea the milk and ginseng from the sea, the seasonal delicacy looks fresh and mouth-watering.
굿? 야, 살아있네.
10년은 젊어진 것 같습니다.
70% of Korean oysters are produced in waters off the coast of Dongyang, South Gyeongsang Province. Local fishers are busy harvesting oysters. Southern fishers begin the harvest of oysters in November, a month earlier than their western counterparts.
수화시 이렇게 이제 우리가 다 재배를 하는데 양식이 아니고 그리고 먹이를 주는 것도 아니고 내나 자연이 벌한 것더니 바다가 키우는 긴데.
Here are some tips on choosing good oysters.
좋은 굴은 이렇게 유백색을 띠고 알이 이렇게 통통한 게 좋은 굴입니다.
Plump flesh can be found inside the shells. The gloss of the meat testifies to its freshness. Oysters are known to be good for men as a stamina booster.
굴에는 단백질과 필수 아미노산 그리고 비타민과 미네랄 같은 영양소가 풍부하기 때문에 신진대사를 원활하게 해주고 기력을 보해주기 때문에 영양학적으로 우수한 완전 식품이라고 볼 수 있습니다.
Shelling oysters is time-consuming, hard work. It's hard to remove the shells without damaging the oyster flesh.
이렇게 잡고 이래가지고 발 흔들면서 이렇게 돌리고
After shelling, oysters are put to auction that afternoon. Some 300 tons of oysters are traded each day in Dongyang. Freshness is the most important factor when it comes to oysters.
이 굴에 이 레몬을 짜서 넣으면은 비린내도 없애주고 살균 효과도 있어서 사용하고 있습니다.
Vitamin C found in lemons helps with the absorption of iron contained in oysters into the body. Here are some tempting dishes made with oysters. It's good to stir oysters in a sauce with vegetables and other seafood. People are spellbound by the stirred oysters. Coated in egg, these fried oysters look tempting. A bowl of oyster rice satisfies all comers. A table is set with dishes made with oysters. Diners look pleased in front of the feast. They all tout the seasonal delicacy.
역시 제철에 먹는 굴이라 그런지 입맛이 팍팍 붙으면서 너무 맛있습니다.
Oysters about half a year old are nutritious and tasty. Nothing is better than seasonal foods. So don't miss the chance to enjoy the delicious health booster from the sea to make yourself ready for the full-fledged arrival of winter.
Now we'll take a look at the markets, followed by the world weather. And that's it for this edition of News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again on Monday. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.